Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's been said that we've heard a lot about waste, fraud, and abuse in this Congress, and indeed we have. We haven't heard enough about justice, fairness, and logic, which predominated this Congress in the 110th and 111th. On its face, the Furthering Asbestos Claim Transparency Act of 2013, or FACT Act, sounds like a reasonable measure, but sounds like and is are two totally different things. I've listened to the witnesses in several hearings over both this and previous Congresses, and I'm unconvinced that this bill addresses an actual problem. In fact, it is the proverbial solution looking for a problem, and yet it also creates more problems. H.R. 982 would impose a number of new reporting and information sharing requirements on trusts that have been established under the Bankruptcy Code to compensate victims of insolvent asbestos manufacturers. The fact is this bill is for the defendants, it's for the asbestos manufacturers, and it's not for the victims. In fact, all the victims groups oppose this bill, and I have a letter from the Asbestos Disease Awareness Organization. I'd like to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record without opposition. Unanimous consent, so ordered, granted.
Without objection.
Thank you.
It will be made a part of the record.
Little lead. As I stated last year and in the subcommittee hearings on this bill, and as Ranking Member Conyers has so eloquently expressed, the bill threatens victims' privacy interests, is inequitable, and unnecessary given the lack of evidence of any endemic fraud. The fact is the error rate is 0.42%, an amount far lower than similar large trust systems. And to the extent that any fraud has been found, these can be appropriately remedied by state court. In light of these concerns and others, I oppose and ask my colleagues to oppose this bill. The process was unusual. At the subcommittee hearing, there were several victims groups present and the wives of several victims. They didn't get a chance to testify. Indeed, at the minority, we had one witness. The majority had three. And I want to commend, in what was somewhat of a legislative, I think, heroic act, our chairman, Spencer Bicus, who agreed to postpone the hearing for 30 days in light of concerns raised by the victims, and stood as a congressman should on his own principles and not what he was being maybe instructed to do by others who were not members of this body. And he wanted to give those people a chance to testify. They unfortunately didn't get that, but what he did was the right thing for openness and for transparency and for the opportunity of the public to have access to Congress and to voice their concerns. Chairman Backus was reasonable and open-minded. He did all he could to accommodate those concerns, I'm sure, and is to be commended for his work as the subcommittee chairman. As we proceed today, I just wanted members on both sides of the aisle to appreciate the work of our subcommittee chairman and also know that the victims of this bill oppose it, not just because they didn't get a chance to be heard, because they don't feel this takes any steps that will see that their loved ones and they get the compensation that they are due for this awful, awful, awful disease. I thank the chairman for the time, and I yield back the remainder thereof.